French police continuing the search for these thieves responsible for stealing a number of priceless and historic jewels from the Louvre Museum in Paris. A total of 9 items have been stolen. They include necklaces and earrings that belong to the museum's Napoleon and Empress collection. Now, Donna Brett is an associate professor in art history at the University of Sydney, and she joins us now. Dr. Brett, thank you for your time. And I've got to ask, as someone who studies art and art crime, what was your reaction when you heard this?
Well, it's a bit of a shock, actually, because the Louvre is, obviously a high-profile museum with, I think, 10 million visitors a year. So, and there also hasn't been a theft there since 1998. So it's kind of a bit of a surprise. But also, it's also interesting that they actually stolen the jewellery, which is also high-profile, but also, historically incredibly valuable.
And what do we know about that jewellery? What can you tell us?
So the jewellery was owned by the royal family, of course, Napoleon, but also the jewellery had been worn by various royal family for several centuries and reset. Some of it was sold off in the 19th century, and some of this was also reset for Josephine and various other members of the family in the 19th century. So they have a historical value, but also a cultural value to France itself, which is the interesting thing in this scenario, because, how do you actually get rid of this material now is going to be the question.
Yeah, now you're questioning the motivation here. Do you think it's more than just making a dollar?
Well, it seems really interesting that they went straight for that jewellery. So they've obviously knew exactly where it was. They've put that device in place to get into that window. It was all over in, I think the report is 4 to 7 minutes. So they knew exactly what they were after. All of the news reports say that it was a very professional hit in that respect. So it seems to me, and probably to many others, that that was exactly what they were after. Now, how they then move that material on is going to be the challenge for police, because they have to understand what avenues they're going to take to sell it or to use it as collateral. So there are lots of different reasons why someone might steal material like this. It could be a targeted theft for someone who wants the jewellery. It could often, in these types of scenarios, and it's happened with the Mulk, for instance, that was stolen in Norway years ago, that they are actually then used for collateral for drug deals, all sorts of other kind of international reasons. So, who knows? They might break it up. I doubt whether they'd be able to sell them as they are right now, because the first thing that will happen is that police will put it onto Interpol. They've got a website of current and historical thefts that haven't been solved, and they use images and all sorts of things. Of course, everyone is notified about it. The Scotland Yard, Art Loss Register, and various other mechanisms. So the images will be out there of these pieces. That makes it really hard to sell them on a legitimate market. It would have to go underground.
And I mean, as you say, so well organised, and you've made the point that, it's so brazen during the daytime, but security can be less alert at that time, just not expecting that. With that all in mind, is there any speculation from you or others as to who or what could be behind this?
Look, I don't know yet, and I think that there will be speculation by various, particularly things like Interpol, some of the more official channels, and the Louvre itself. It's interesting because it's not uncommon for a daylight robbery in this instance. Lots of different paintings have been stolen during the day in terms from art museums. In 2020, there was a rash of huge increase of thefts around the world, for instance, and since then the numbers have increased remarkably. Theft of art and cultural objects is the 3rd largest, reportedly, issue for Interpol in terms of crime. So there's things like, drugs, of course, but then there's art theft. So it is a massive market for it. But as I said, whether they break it up, Whether they try and sell it as it is. If they did that, I think that'd be pretty silly because, as I said, everyone knows about this. But lots of objects have been stolen during the day. So, for instance, one of the Munchs was stolen during the day. The Van Gogh was stolen in Amsterdam during the day. And the thing is that, you are distracted. All of those security guards are distracted by thousands of people coming into the museum, particularly as it had just opened.
Yeah. So do you think we'll ever see these jewels in their form again?
Probably not. I wouldn't imagine that anyone would hold out great hope for that. It's interesting that they dropped a piece, whether that was accidental or not. But if they're not very smart, if they're not connected in with the underworld, of course, and the various syndicated crime units in Europe, they might foolishly try and sell them on the open market. Look, in Australia, we've had our own history of paintings stolen, for instance, at the Art Gallery in New South Wales, never seen the light of day. Interestingly enough, the Van Gogh that was stolen in 2020 was returned to a renowned detective in a plastic bag because they couldn't get rid of it. So there is hope, but I wouldn't hold out much.